My parents treated my stepkids like outcasts, so I cut them off. Now they're changing their will and my siblings are furious. I never thought I'd be sharing my family drama on the internet, but here I am, desperate for advice. I, 35M, have been married to Trisha, 33F, for 5 years now. We have a daughter together, Lena, 3F, and we're also raising my son Noah, 9M, from my previous relationship, as well as Trisha's 2 kids from her previous marriage, Pete, 14M, and Sophie, 11F. Our story began 7 years ago when Trisha and I met at a local community center. I was there for a single-parent support group, still reeling from my recent divorce and struggling to balance my career as a software engineer with caring for Noah, who was just 2 at the time. Trisha was volunteering at the center, running an after-school program for kids. She had recently separated from her ex-husband, juggling her job as an elementary school teacher with raising Pete and Sophie, who were 7 and 4 then. We bonded over our shared experiences as single parents, and our friendship quickly blossomed into something more. Within a year, we were married, and our blended family adventure began. It wasn't always easy. Noah struggled with the change at first, acting out and demanding more attention. Pete was hesitant to accept me as a father figure, while Sophie latched onto me almost immediately, desperate for a stable male presence in her life. But we worked hard to make it work. We established new family traditions, like Sunday morning pancake breakfasts and monthly family choice days where we'd take turns choosing an activity for everyone. Slowly but surely, we started to feel like a real family unit. The birth of Lena 2 years into our marriage seemed to cement our bond. Watching Pete and Sophie dote on their baby sister, and seeing Noah proudly take on the role of big brother, filled my heart with joy. I truly felt like I had hit the jackpot, a loving wife and 4 amazing kids. However, there was one dark cloud hanging over our happiness: my parents, especially my mom, Linda, 60F. From the beginning, my parents struggled to accept our blended family. They had always been traditional and set in their ways. When I first introduced them to Trisha and her kids, their reaction was lukewarm at best. My mom made a point of telling me later that she thought I was taking on too much by marrying a woman with 2 children. I brushed off their initial reluctance, assuming they just needed time to adjust. But as the years went by, their behavior towards Pete and Sophie became increasingly problematic. It started with small things, forgetting their birthdays, giving them noticeably less expensive gifts at Christmas, or conveniently forgetting to invite them to family events. One incident that stands out happened about 2 years ago. We were at my parents' house for a family dinner. Noah and Lena were playing in the living room with some toys my parents kept at their house for the grandkids. When Sophie asked if she could join in, my mom said, "Oh, those are special toys just for Noah and Lena. Why don't you go read a book or something?" The look of hurt on Sophie's face was heartbreaking. Another time, during Pete's middle school graduation, my parents showed up late and left early, barely acknowledging his achievement. Yet when Noah had a small part in the school play a few months later, they were front and center, cheering and taking pictures. Last summer, we had a family barbecue at our house. My parents were there, along with Trisha's parents and some close friends. Everything was going well until I overheard my mom talking to her friend. She was complaining about how Pete and Sophie were always around and how she wished they would just go live with their real dad. I was shocked and confronted her about it later, but she brushed it off, saying I had misunderstood. The situation has been causing increasing tension between Trisha and me. She's understandably hurt and angry about how her kids are being treated, and I feel torn between my love for my wife and children and my relationship with my parents. Things came to a head last month during Noah's birthday party. We had planned a big celebration at a local park, complete with a bouncy castle, face painting, and a magician. Pete and Sophie had been excited about it for weeks, helping with decorations and planning games for the younger kids. On the day of the party, my parents showed up with expensive gifts for Noah and Lena, a new bike for Noah and a fancy doll house for Lena. But they had nothing for Pete and Sophie. When Trisha politely mentioned it, thinking perhaps they had forgotten, my mom said, "Oh, we didn't think they'd want anything. They're not really part of the family, are they?" The silence that followed was deafening. I saw the hurt in Pete and Sophie's eyes, and it broke my heart. Pete, who's usually so composed, looked like he was fighting back tears. Sophie grabbed Trisha's hand and hid behind her. Trisha was furious, her face flushed with anger. I pulled my parents aside and told them their behavior was unacceptable. My dad got defensive, saying they had the right to treat their real grandchildren differently. My mom started crying, claiming she didn't mean to hurt anyone's feelings. I told them to leave the party immediately. They caused a scene as they left, with my dad yelling about how ungrateful I was and my mom sobbing about how I was choosing those kids over my own family. Several of our guests witnessed the commotion, and the party atmosphere was ruined. After everyone left, Trisha and I had a long, emotional talk. She recounted other incidents I hadn't even been aware of, snide comments my mom had made when I wasn't around, times when Pete and Sophie had been excluded from grandkids' activities. She told me that Pete had asked her a few weeks ago why my parents didn't like him and Sophie. I felt like a failure. How had I let this go on for so long? How had I been so blind to the hurt my parents were causing? Since then, my parents have been calling and texting nonstop, demanding an apology from me and Trisha. They've even gotten my siblings involved. My sister Rachel, 38F, called to tell me I was overreacting and that I needed to make amends before I ruined the family. My brother Mike, 30M, seems more sympathetic, but he's also pushing for a reconciliation. My mom insists she didn't mean to hurt anyone's feelings and that we're overreacting. She says she loves all the grandkids equally, but her actions tell a different story. My dad is less subtle, openly saying that while Pete and Sophie are nice kids, they're not his real grandchildren. Trisha wants to cut ties with my parents completely, at least until they sincerely apologize and change their behavior. Part of me agrees. I'm furious at how they've treated Pete and Sophie, and I want to protect my children from further hurt. But another part of me feels guilty about potentially depriving Lena and Noah of a relationship with their grandparents. I'm torn between my love for all my children, step and biological, and my relationship with my parents. Am I overreacting? Should I give them another chance? Or is it time to put my foot down and protect Pete and Sophie from further hurt? The whole situation has stirred up old insecurities for me. My parents have always been critical and demanding, and I've spent most of my life trying to live up to their expectations. Part of me wonders if this is just another way I'm disappointing them. Trisha has been incredibly patient and supportive throughout all of this, but I can see the toll it's taking on her. She's become more withdrawn lately, and I've noticed her checking on Pete and Sophie more frequently, as if she's worried about their emotional well-being. The kids, for their part, are trying to put on brave faces, but I can tell they're affected. Pete has become more reserved, spending more time in his room. Sophie has been extra clingy, especially with Trisha. Noah seems confused by the whole situation, and Lena, thankfully, is too young to fully understand what's going on. I feel like I'm at a crossroads, and the decision I make will have long-lasting effects on my family. How do I protect all my children while also dealing with my parents? How do I balance my roles as a son, a husband, and a father when they seem to be in conflict? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. I just want to do what's best for my family, all of my family. Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their advice and support. It really helped me gain perspective on the situation and gave me the courage to take action. After much discussion with Trisha, we decided to send my parents a lengthy email explaining why their behavior was unacceptable and how it was affecting our family, especially Pete and Sophie. We detailed specific incidents that had hurt the kids, explained how their actions were damaging our family dynamic, and made it clear that until they acknowledged their actions and made a genuine effort to change, they wouldn't be welcome in our home or around our children. Writing that email was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Trisha and I spent hours drafting it, debating every word. We wanted to be firm but not cruel, clear but not accusatory. After we sent it, I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. Part of me hoped this would be the wake-up call my parents needed. For 2 weeks, we didn't hear anything back. The silence was deafening. I found myself constantly checking my phone, both dreading and hoping for a response. Trisha was a rock during this time, reminding me that we were doing this for our children. Then, out of the blue, my sister Rachel called me. She was furious, saying I was tearing the family apart. Apparently, my parents had shown her our email but conveniently left out their own behavior that led to this situation. Rachel accused me of being ungrateful and said I was brainwashed by Trisha. I tried to explain our side, recounting incidents Rachel hadn't been present for, but she wouldn't listen. She then dropped a bombshell. Our parents had decided to change their will. They were removing Pete and Sophie from any inheritance and reducing my share, giving most of it to Rachel and our younger brother, Mike. I was stunned. Not because of the money, Trisha and I are comfortable financially, but because it showed just how deep their discrimination ran. The next day, I received a text from my mom. It read, "We're sorry you feel this way. We've always treated all the children equally. If you want to ruin your relationship with us over your wife's kids, that's your choice. Don't expect us to beg for forgiveness when we've done nothing wrong." I showed the text to Trisha, and we both agreed it was time to take more drastic action. We decided to block my parents' numbers and social media accounts. We also informed the kids' schools that my parents were not allowed to pick them up or visit them under any circumstances. Explaining the situation to the kids was one of the most challenging conversations we've ever had. Pete and Sophie were quiet at first. Then Pete opened up and told us how he'd always felt like an outsider around my parents, but he'd been too afraid to say anything because he didn't want to cause problems. Sophie cried and asked if it was her fault, if she had done something to make my parents not like her. It broke our hearts to see them blame themselves for adult problems. Noah was confused and upset about not seeing his grandparents. We explained as best we could, emphasizing that family is about love and respect, not just blood. We told him it was okay to miss his grandparents and that his feelings were valid, but that we needed to protect all members of our family. Lena, being only 3, didn't fully understand, but we made sure to shower her with extra love and attention. The days following our decision were tense. I found myself second-guessing our choice, wondering if we had gone too far. Trisha reassured me, reminding me of all the times Pete and Sophie had been hurt by my parents' actions. About a week after blocking my parents, I received an email from my brother Mike. Unlike Rachel, he was more open to hearing our side of the story. He admitted that he'd noticed our parents' behavior towards Pete and Sophie but had never realized how bad it was. He apologized for not speaking up sooner and asked if we could meet to talk. Trisha and I discussed it and decided I should meet with Mike alone. We met for coffee, and I explained everything in detail. Mike was shocked by some of the incidents he hadn't been aware of. He promised to support us and said he would talk to our parents about their behavior. Mike's support gave me a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, my parents could change. However, I'm trying not to get my hopes up too high. Years of behavior won't change overnight, and Trisha and I agree that we need to see consistent, long-term change before we consider allowing my parents back into our lives. In the meantime, we're focusing on strengthening our family bond. Trisha's parents have been incredibly supportive throughout this ordeal. They've gone out of their way to make Pete and Sophie feel loved and included, even planning a special grandkids' day for all 5 children. We've also started a new tradition of weekly family game nights, which has been great for bringing everyone closer together. Last week, we played Monopoly, and it was heartwarming to see Pete teaching Lena how to count her money, and Noah and Sophie forming an alliance against the rest of us. As for me, I'm still struggling with feelings of guilt and anger. I keep second-guessing my decision, wondering if I'm doing the right thing. But then I look at Pete and Sophie, and I see the relief in their eyes when they realize they don't have to brace themselves for my parents' visits, and I know I have to stand firm. They deserve to feel loved and accepted in their own family. Trisha and I are taking it day by day. We're committed to creating a positive, loving environment for all our children. It's not always easy, but seeing the kids happy and relaxed in our home makes it all worth it. I'll update again if anything significant happens. For now, we're trying to move forward and focus on the family we've built. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It truly means more than you know. Update 2. It's been 3 months since my last update, and the situation has taken some unexpected turns. I apologize for the delay in updating. Things have been hectic. About a month ago, my brother Mike reached out to me again. He said he had been thinking a lot about our conversation and wanted to talk more. We met for coffee, and he shared some insights into our family dynamics that I hadn't considered before. Mike reminded me of our childhood, how our parents had always been rigid and demanding. He recounted incidents I had forgotten, times when their love seemed conditional on our achievements or adherence to their expectations. It made me realize that their treatment of Pete and Sophie wasn't just about them being step-grandchildren, it was a continuation of a pattern that had existed long before. During our talk, Mike also revealed something that shocked me. Apparently, when I first started dating Trisha, our parents had tried to set me up with a family friend's daughter. They had never approved of my relationship with Trisha, seeing her kids as baggage. This information made their behavior towards Pete and Sophie even more hurtful, but it also helped me understand that this wasn't a problem I could easily fix. Mike's support gave me a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, some part of my family could change. However, that hope was short-lived. 2 weeks after my meeting with Mike, we received an invitation to a family reunion. The invitation explicitly stated that it was for blood relatives only. I was furious. It was clear that this was my parents' way of excluding Pete and Sophie while still trying to maintain a relationship with their real grandchildren. I called my dad to confront him about the invitation. The conversation quickly turned heated. He accused me of being obsessed with Trisha's kids and neglecting my real family. When I pointed out that Pete and Sophie were as much my children as Noah and Lena, he scoffed and said, "You can play happy families all you want, but it doesn't change the fact that they're not your blood." That was the last straw for me. I told him that if Pete and Sophie weren't welcome, then none of us would be attending. I hung up and blocked his number. The next day, Rachel showed up at our house unannounced. She tried to guilt-trip me into attending the reunion, saying it might be one of the last times we'd all be together as a family. When that didn't work, she turned nasty, accusing Trisha of turning me against my family and calling Pete and Sophie those brats. I asked her to leave and told her she wasn't welcome back until she could treat all my children with respect. The kids have been coping as well as can be expected. Pete has thrown himself into his schoolwork and sports, joining the school soccer team and spending extra time studying. Sophie has become more withdrawn, but she's been expressing herself through art, filling sketchbooks with intricate drawings. Noah still asks about his grandparents occasionally, but less frequently now. Lena, bless her heart, seems to have adapted the best, always trying to cheer everyone up with her antics. Trisha and I have been going to couples counseling to help us navigate this situation. It's been helpful in providing us with tools to communicate better and support each other through this difficult time. We've also started having regular check-ins with each of the kids, giving them a safe space to express their feelings about the situation. On a positive note, Mike has been making an effort to be more involved in all the kids' lives. He's been coming over for dinner regularly and even took all 5 kids to an amusement park last weekend. It was heartwarming to see Pete and Sophie's excitement when they talked about their day with Uncle Mike. It's a small bright spot in an otherwise challenging situation. We're still taking it day by day, but I feel more confident in our decision to distance ourselves from my parents. The peace in our home and the happiness of all our children are worth more than any family reunion or inheritance. I'll update again if there are any significant developments. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some recent developments. About 2 months ago, my mom was diagnosed with a serious illness. My dad called to inform me, clearly expecting this news to mend our rift immediately. While I was concerned for her health, I made it clear that her illness didn't erase the hurt they had caused our family. Despite my reservations, Tricia and I decided to visit my mom in the hospital. We went alone, without the kids, to assess the situation. The visit was tense. My mom seemed genuinely happy to see us, but my dad was cold and distant. When my mom asked about all the grandkids, including Pete and Sophie, I saw a flicker of hope. But then my dad interjected, saying, "Let's not pretend. We all know who the real grandkids are." That comment solidified my resolve. I told them that until they could treat all my children equally, we wouldn't be part of their lives, regardless of the circumstances. We left the hospital, and I felt a mix of sadness and relief. The aftermath of that visit was intense. Rachel unleashed a barrage of angry messages, calling me heartless for abandoning our mother in her time of need. Mike, on the other hand, understood our position and has been keeping us updated on Mom's condition. At home, we've been focusing on strengthening our family bond. We started a tradition of monthly family adventure days where we try new activities together. Last month, we went rock climbing, and it was amazing to see Pete helping Sophie overcome her fear of heights, and Noah cheering them on. Lena, not wanting to be left out, insisted on trying the kiddie wall and beamed with pride when she reached the top. Pete and Sophie have been doing better. Pete joined the school's debate team and is thriving. He came home excited last week because he won his first debate competition. Sophie has started opening up more and has joined an art club. She's even talking about selling some of her drawings at the school fair. Noah still has moments where he misses his grandparents, but he's understanding the situation better. Lena continues to be the family's little ray of sunshine, always ready with a hug or a silly dance to cheer everyone up. Tricia's parents have been incredible throughout all of this. They've stepped up even more, making sure all the kids feel loved and supported. They recently took all 5 kids on a weekend camping trip, something my parents would never have done. When they returned, the kids were full of stories about roasting marshmallows, telling ghost stories, and learning to fish. As for Tricia and me, we're stronger than ever. The couples counseling has really helped us navigate this challenging situation. We've learned to lean on each other and present a united front for our family. Last week, we had a date night for the first time in months. It was nice to reconnect and remind ourselves that amidst all the family drama, we're still us. I still have moments of doubt and sadness about the situation with my parents. Sometimes I catch myself remembering good times from my childhood, and it hurts to think about the relationship we've lost. But then I look at our family, all of our children, happy, thriving, and feeling secure in their place in our family, and I know we've made the right choice. This might be my final update unless something significant changes. We're moving forward, focusing on building a loving, inclusive family environment for all our children. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. It's been a tough road, but I'm proud of the family we've become.